stylistic bugs. Okay, now this brings me to another aside that is, I think, worth mentioning. It's not really the main theme, but it's this thing about brackets. How do we know where to put parentheses and where not to put parentheses? Well, it all comes down to the precedence of the operators in question. Just like with your high school arithmetic, you learnt that multiplication has a higher precedence than addition. And so you don't need to put brackets around terms which are multiplied together. The same goes for Haskell. The thing to remember, however, is that in Haskell, there is an operator which is invisible. And that's this one here. It's the space between the function and its argument. That's an operator. That's called the apply operator. And every operator in Haskell has a precedence, which is a number between 0 and 9. We saw in the second lecture, I think, where I defined an operator, exclusive OR, and I copied the precedence of the function ordinary OR, and I don't know if that was a good idea or not. Maybe I copied the precedence of AND. But anyway, the precedence we see here, this is a right associative operator of precedence 2. Perhaps it's more instructive to take an operator you know. Multiply is a left associative operator of precedence 7. That's a higher precedence than the operator plus, which has a left associative operator of precedence 6. When you define operators, you can define them to be any precedence you like between 0 and 8. Precedence 9 is reserved for one operator. That's the space character that signifies the application operator of a function and an argument. That's why function application binds more tightly than anything else. That's why you often don't need brackets around the function application. So when I write even x put on the front of the empty list, the reason I don't need brackets around here is because this operator binds more tightly than this operator, or anything else that I might be using around this thing. Okay? Oh. Okay, any questions about that? That's all well and good, but sometimes we still need quite a lot of brackets. Let me see if I find an example in what I've written today. Here's an example. We've got a bunch of brackets here. When you start seeing these lots of nestings, it's sometimes an indication that we can maybe do better. So why do we need brackets here? What would happen if we removed that pair of brackets? Well, what the parser would do would say this is the function drop applied to the first argument 1 and the second argument drop while. And that would of course be a syntax error or a type error. The types don't make sense. You can't apply drop one. Drop one has to be applied to a list and not a function. And that's because the space operator binds tightly and it's left associative. So that's why we had to put a bracket in here. So we've been having an apply operator with a high precedence often means we leave out brackets, but sometimes it means we have to put in brackets. How do we get around that? Well, we can get around that, or we often get around that by using another apply operator. We don't have to use this apply operator. We can define our own apply operator. And there is one defined in the prelude, and it's called $. And $. Is just an apply operator. In other words, one argument is a function, and the second argument is that function's argument, and it will take the function and apply it to this argument. Okay? It's a dead easy definition. The definition would be f applied to x equals f of x. Right? Not difficult to define, but the important thing is that this operator has a defined precedence which is right associative and has very low precedence. So instead of precedence 9, which normal application has, this is the lowest precedence. That's used very commonly in Haskell code to give fewer brackets. So instead of using ordinary application here, we use the $. Application, which does the same job but with a different precedence, and it means we can eliminate those brackets. In other words, it means that everything to the right, up until the next bracket, of course, will have a higher precedence than the application operator. Okay, so it's not a big thing. It's just that you will see it a lot in code. HLint will often suggest you use it, So it's important you understand why it's there and what it is. There's no magic, it's not special syntax, it's just a bit of standard Haskell that is widely used and could be easily defined yourself. Any questions about that? All right.